Simon from WhatCulture here with the one and only Matt Hardy. How are we doing today, Mr. Hardy?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. And that is just for you, Simon.
I may or may not have had a conversation with Matt beforehand, telling him to push for certain character. I don't want to say too much. You say what you think you can say.
Oh, I mean, I will. I mean, but let's legitimately face it. After 31 years, I'm kind of broken as it is anyway, so I might as well embrace it and just be broken.
It's perfect.
You know?
It's almost like you've done this before. But no, Jane, we talked about this years ago, terrifyingly 7 years ago, but let's not worry about that. And I am a big advocate of everything you did back then, where you turned the professional wrestling world on its head. And you could probably argue that you're doing that again on, AEW Dark and Elevation, in the sense you have taken storylines and you've gone, okay, these shows are cool. We've got a bunch of matches. We're showcasing good talent, but let's get a bit of the professional wrestling aspect in there too.
Yeah, well, honestly, the way this all kind of came to be is whenever Jeff's situation happened last summer, we were in a position where we were going to be doing tag team stuff primarily for months. That was all planned out. So once that happened, I was just kind of in limbo, and I really didn't have anything. So, we just started brainstorming, and I ended up doing a deal with Ethan Page. And obviously, I did a thing where I reconciled with Private Party, which I love. And Private Party success, I feel like that's a big part of my legacy. It's very important to me that they establish themselves. So proud of the stuff Isaiah's been doing. I hope Mark Wynn gets better soon. He's been out hurt. But I started doing this thing with Ethan Page, and if we do it on Elevation or Dark or whatever, we kind of get to do our own stuff. Yeah. And we kind of get to, make our own music, create our own magic, which I love. And if it came so good, we kind of forced their hand and made them put it on TV. And now we're at a point, I think it's going to do something that's really special, and it's going to be like one great week of TV after another great week of TV after another great week of TV. And I think it's going to leave everyone happy, and it's also going to be very satisfying for the AEW fan base, which is much more in-ring based. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy that AEW allows these opportunities for you to go out and make your own music and kind of create your own magic. And really proud of how so many people have embraced it and they really dig the angle.
But it's really smart too, because let's say you're an AEW fan, but you just watch Dynamite. That's just what you do, right? If all of a sudden the Matt Hardy, Ethan Page stuff starts to develop on that show, that was fun. You go on the internet, you Google it, it started down. Maybe I'll start watching the YouTube shows. Do you think we should try and get more narratives in those two things, just to try and sort of create like a environment that kind of all ties in together? So you don't have to watch it, but if you do, you get little links here and there.
I think so. And I also think as society changes, as technology changes, so many people don't even watch stuff on television. A lot of it is streamed in this day and age, right? Yeah. And you do see clips. So the television shows are always going to be great, but the supplemental stuff like the Elevation or Dark, they're great platforms to use to even build stuff or to experiment and try stuff out. I think it's almost like a house show event in some ways, where it's like there's not total criticism of you on it, but you can experiment. When you're on TV, like if you would go through after I'm on TV sometime, Twitter is toxic occasionally, and you go through and you search like a vanity search of quote Matt Hardy and go through and see if you can last through 20 tweets. You know what I mean? Because they can be pretty brutal, but there's a lot of people that are also great as well. But once again, that's the world we live in, and it's all cool. At the end of the day, I think it's cool that AEW is using so many different avenues, so many different platforms to tell stories and allowing us to do that. And I think this is kind of like where wrestling will eventually end up going, because one day there's not going to be TVs. Everything's going to be streaming when it's all said and done. Yeah. That's where everything's going. It's more centralized on itself more than anything else. So I think it's a good process to start training viewers to watch other things. If you have a company and you have a programming that's on TV, watch it. If you have a program that's on YouTube, watch it. If you have a programming that's on like a streaming service, watch that. So I think it's a good exercise for wrestling fans to try and follow everything.
I agree. And also, hopefully, opening the door to what we can do with all of this that's at our fingertips. My favorite thing about what you've done, I've enjoyed the whole thing, but we'll call it the first peak, is when you guys were training Stokely Hathaway for his match. I just have to say this. The fact that Matt Hardy, you've done everything in wrestling. Let's not pretend otherwise, right? You've been here, you've been there, revolutionized matches. But the fact you're still happy to not take yourself seriously at all in those skits, I genuinely is my favorite stuff. And I watch it, and it actually makes me feel happy. Genuinely.
There was so much fun stuff. We shot that in about 40 minutes. Really? We kind of burned through some stuff. And I know they were going to put out an extended cut, but they said like the 1 minute cut of it was so good. We don't even want to change it, because there was some other hilarious footage in there. And like, once again, Ethan Page has an amazing sense of humor too. Stokely obviously does. And Isaiah has come so far. I am so proud of him. The way the Moan stuff has got over, we will go out on the ramp and we're doing our entrance and he'll say, give me a, "Hoo, yeah," and the whole crowd will do it. And for a guy that was just like a member of a tag team for a party, he's got over himself during this. So big props to him. But that whole bit was the perfect. You could tell it was like Hook got me in that hold. It wasn't even locked in. I tapped out. So obviously I was wanting Stokely in this match. And me out there training him, I give him a body slam and say, I think we need a couple more. And he says, but why do you say he's a suplex master? We're doing body slam. You say tomato, I say tomato. It's all the same. But those things were so much fun to do, and they were so entertaining. And we're going to have a good one. I don't know when you're going to air this, but this Wednesday, the match is actually happening.
It is.
Tonight on Rampage, we signed the contract, Ethan Page and Hook. And I put the contract together personally, and Ethan trusts me so much as his best friend.
As he should.
His best mate, that he didn't even read it.
No, he doesn't need to, does he?
Not at all. I mean, I put some stuff in there that is going to make the match really, really fun and entertaining. And we might have some stakes in there this Wednesday on Dynamite whenever it airs.
I mean, we'll have to find out by watching Dynamite on Wednesday. You say wherever it airs. It's on Fight TV in the UK.
Yeah, on Fight TV, that's right, yeah.
I do want to ask you a quick question because you brought it up. Like, for the last year, I've been advocating. I call it goofy wrestling. It's a silly term I came up with. It's just when people don't take themselves too seriously. You mentioned it with the private party guys, especially, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Do you think that is something that sort of more young and up-and-coming wrestlers, because a lot of people are like, no, I got to be serious, dude. I got to be like, look at me, I'm a fighter, I'm a wrestler. Was actually the people I kind of gravitate towards now are the people that come out and do silly stuff.
Right.
I'm like, where did that come from? Like the moan when he first did that. I think it was on the basketball game. I was like, I honestly looked around like, did he just moan?
Yeah.
And obviously, people will listen to you because you've got experience. Are you trying to not push that on people, but like get it in people's heads? No, man, you got this whole palette you can paint with. Go crazy.
Well, after I got to know Isaiah well, I knew his personality, and I said, dude, I think you should lean into this. Like you do. You kind of portray this guy as a young guy who goes out, hits the club, likes to party. I said, think about stuff that you would do to make people laugh or to entertain them or whatever. And he started coming up with ideas like that, and he's really got it down. He's also got down the expressions. There's a lot of times with people, if they're in a moment, their emotion, you almost like drag it out a little bit so the crowd can understand it and take it all in. And he has gotten so good at that over the last couple of years, something I really take my hat off to him. But I think there's times in wrestling, if you're the top angle working for the title and it's a very serious thing, you stay serious.
Absolutely.
But there's also a lot of times where you can just entertain people, because at the end of the day, what we're doing is pro wrestling. We throw guys into the ropes and they come back off the ropes. So you can't take yourself too serious. Because if you do that, you end up getting lost. You lose the plot. So it's one of those things. There's a time to be serious. There's a time to be dramatic, and there's also a time to entertain people and just go out and cut up and have fun.
Awesome. I'm going to ask you the stereotypical question to end, but it's different with you because you could retire tomorrow and be like, well, what else am I going to do? Like, what else would you like to do though in professional wrestling with the platform that you have bestowed upon you?
I think if everything works out, and if Jeff comes back, I would like to have one hell of a final tag team run.
Right.
I think that would be a big deal to really help kind of cement our legacy. And as you said, I don't have to go. Every time the Young Bucks come in, they go, oh, there he is, the living legend. He's worth 10 digits. He doesn't even have to be here, but he decides to come on his own accord. And it's one of those things, man, where I just enjoy being around it. And while I'm physically able to do it,
makes sense,
I like
right?
doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like my passion. It's like, they say that if you can find a job that you love, and you would go do it for free, it's almost like you're not working.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how pro wrestling is to me. Obviously, it's grinding. It's very tough physically. Travel can be tough, but man, I love it so much. And while I can do it, I want to do it. And I also take a lot of pride in giving back and helping younger guys, whoever that may be.
Yeah. How is your back now, by the way, as we mentioned that? Is it okay now? Because you went through a hell of a time, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, my hips are still pretty beat up. I've actually talked to some guys. I talked to one guy today, maybe doing some stem cell treatment later on. And they're actually they can scope a little bit of stuff out sometimes if you have so much scar tissue, because that's what it is. I mean, I did those leg drops on that hard-ass WWE ring for 10 days straight, then 4 days off when we started, from 1997 on. So I beat my body up a lot back in those days. I wish old, experienced veteran Matt could tell young Matt, like, hey, just don't do it every single night, kid. Get a finisher that you don't jump off the top rope, but it is what it is. The Undertaker told me one time, pro wrestling is a very cruel business. He said, because when you're young and healthy, you can go out and you can do everything and anything, and you'll do it over and over, but you won't smarten up and work smart until your body gets too hurt to be able to do it that way. And it really is right.
Yeah. The biggest problem with this, let's say there's a young wrestler watching right now, It's going to ignore that advice totally.
Of course.
And he'll learn it in 25, 30 years as well.
But you know what, young wrestler? It's okay. I did too, and everybody else does.
Everybody does it. That's why I made my finish the spear. You see? Nice and easy. And that's not true. I did it because people chant Goldberg. I was like, all right, I'll lean into it then.
I like it.
Matt Hardy, you're my hero. It's always good seeing you, man.
You're an intellectual man.
Well, you know, I try. Like, share, subscribe, and obviously keep an eye on him. What's he going to do?